finding the Endurance below 3,000 meters of sea and ice. How easy is it? We have the coordinates. However, how do we know how accurate those measurements really were? He's used the tools that nature has given him, and the tools which man made. Those tools, how calibrated were they? How accurate can we rely on them? Are the coordinates the key, or are the coordinates misleading? This could be very much the questions which the Expedition 2022 to find the Endurance will face. And we know that the captain, Frank Worsley, was an expert navigator, and he used the Sextant. So the only sensible way is to look at the tools he was using and the judgments which Frank was making to get those coordinates. So we need to now know and understand how the calibration of his stopwatch against Greenwich Mean Time and how accurate the Sextant was to natural evolving Earth. This can give us a judgment, and only a judgment, of the location of the Endurance. Studies have been conducted to analyse the tools which was available to Frank. The main concerns was the clock, which was set to Greenwich Mean Time. But how accurate was the time? How accurate was the calibration of the clock? His small pocket watch, referred to as a marine chronometer, was studied by Bergman and Stewart, which had suggested that the running of the clock was running much slower than the crew of the Endurance realised, and therefore the accuracy of the coordinates produced would have been affected and been sunk further west than Frank would have recorded as the position where the Endurance sunk to the bottom of the ocean. The Endurance's ship's captain, Frank, would have known how to calibrate his tools to make sure he knew the correct coordinates. However, they relied on the natural world providing an observatory for Frank to reset and calibrate his tools. The best way to describe it of how he would do such a thing was by observing the stars as they disappeared behind the moon. The timing of these movements had been predicted and published, and created a table where he could use those signs to recalibrate his equipment. I think it would be fair to say, without an observation at the time of creating the coordinates to recalibrate the tools, you may find the misjudgment of the location could be many kilometers off from where they thought they were. Interestingly, modern science and studies can analyse all the information to hand. And if Worsley was to look at his watch and recalibrate with today's equipment and today's knowledge, he would have realised that he was 22 seconds faster than they are accounting for. This small misjudgment could mean the Endurance is more than 3 kilometres east of Worsley's logged locations. This is where it gets interesting and exciting, because we now require science and history to unravel the correct position of the Endurance, as it's not handed to us on the plate anymore. So we now need to look at the history. When was the coordinates plotted? Well, in fact, the records show it was not plotted until 19 hours after the Endurance had sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And the reason for that was due to thick cloud covering the sun, where the sun is required to gain those coordinates through the Sextant. Therefore, it is possible to think that was another judgment of error. This study meant it's another piece of information for the Endurance Expedition 2022 to look at the probable place of where the ship lies at the bottom of the ocean. Of course, these studies have to be recognised as a probability of where it could be. However, it is only an assessment and judgment using history and science to try and unravel the position of the Endurance. Therefore, it needs to be considered as part of all the information provided. This certainly means that there's no written path for the expedition to find the Endurance. There's no guarantee. However, using all of the knowledge, it gives a better probability that we'll find Shackleton's Endurance that sunk in the logbook that carries these coordinates. And the possible misjudgment just adds to the story and the adventure that the expedition Endurance 2022 is taken on. These studies have been really important to try and navigate the sunk location. However, there is still the mystery of unknown. Did Frank manage to calibrate his tools correctly? Were the coordinates he provided in his logbook, regardless of being 19 hours after the sinking, correct? This no doubt makes the expedition even more interesting to see if they can find the location. To follow the expedition further and related stories to the Endurance, please subscribe and like. Keep your eyes out for further videos.